Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be wrapping this headliner in suede. Now, while it seems like a job that can be difficult or tedious, it's actually very beginner friendly, very inexpensive, and you can get it done in a single afternoon. Once you've got your headliner, there's only three things you're going to need. Firstly being the material you're going to use. This is just some black suede that I got online. Some headliner adhesive. This is from 3M. You can actually pick this up at Walmart. And lastly, a pair of scissors. There are a ton of different adhesives you can use, but I specifically like using this one because it's very specific for the job. It is literally in the name, headliner adhesive. It's from 3M, which is a very high quality company, and it's very easily accessible. Picked this up at Walmart for about 17 bucks, and being 18 ounces, one is plenty for a headliner. But if you are going to do, say, like pillars and door cards, would not hurt to get a second one. Now, as for the fabric, this is from Fabric Empire on Amazon, and I really like using them because one, the color, and two, the feel. So this has a very OE-like black look to it, whereas a lot of the other fabrics you might be looking at online, I feel usually end up looking more like a jet black. Like you can see this one, granted it's dirty, but it is a good bit darker than this one. And if you try to go, say, more charcoal, they usually lean more gray. Now, I have this headliner right here. This is from an MKZ that I had, and this actually had factory black suede. And between the two, this is probably the closest in my opinion, because this has a little bit of that bridge between the jet black and the charcoal. So if you have black interior plastics like the roof console that would go right here, that's tan on this one, it would match a little bit more uniformly. And that's basically what we're going for, a little bit more of that OE look. Now the color of this material is called onyx, but they do also sell a jet black option, so it's pretty easy to differentiate which one you're going for. Now I am going to be linking them in the description box down below in case you want to check them out as well. So for the options, I got the color onyx, I got 3 yards. For a headliner like this, 2 yards is plenty, but I do have some extra odds and ends that I want to do, so that's the extra yard right there. And I also got it without foam on the back. That is intentional, but if you're not sure if you need foam or you don't, it's going to come down to your headliner, but it's pretty easy to tell. So you're going to come to the side of the headliner, you're going to check out the fabric, the foam, and the backing. So top piece is fabric, center piece is the foam, this back piece is the backing. So it's going to be more dependent on the backing. If you were to get fabric with foam, you would be removing the factory fabric and the factory foam and just putting it on the factory backing. So you can see here, if you're grabbing the fabric, the foam is coming with it, and you need to clean all that off. The only thing is the backing is very, very thin and very, very flimsy. So if you were to actually go that route, you would lose a lot of structural integrity. So in a situation like this, it's much better to just get fabric without the foam and wrap over it to keep the structural integrity of the piece. Now there are certain headliners that are a little bit more structurally sound, and you can see why right here. There's actually 2 layers of foam. You have this greenish gray one that's part of the backing, and you have this brown one that's part of the fabric. So in a situation like this, you would only be removing this top layer, the brown one, meaning that you could very easily get fabric with foam and just put it on top without losing any structural integrity. But being that this is the headliner we're working with, we're just gonna wrap over it, basically going the easy way. If you do, however, have a headliner similar to this one, all you need to do is just peel the fabric off. Comes off pretty easily, honestly. Then you get a drill with a wire brush attachment and just scrape off the rest of the foam. So you're gonna start by unrolling the fabric onto the headliner. You basically just wanna position it up and go ahead and get yourself an offcut or two, and with that, you're gonna use this to massage the fabric into position rather than your hands. The basic ideology is your hands can get kind of oily, you don't really wanna mess with the finish of the suede, but if you're using this, it's pretty forgiving and you can spread it out a lot easier. From here, the easy way to look at it is basically 2 sections, bottom section, top section. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna fold the fabric in half, that's about it right there, and you're gonna glue both the headliner and the fabric. So we have our glue right here. You're gonna shake it, has some directions on how long to shake it. But basically you wanna get maximum adhesion. So you're gonna spray this side as well as the back side. You're gonna let it sit for about 10 minutes so it can get tacky. And from there, you're gonna start working from the center out. So with our offcut, we're basically gonna start right here in this raised section, work our way out, putting an emphasis right here on this little indentation for the roof handles, because we want that to obviously grab very well, being that there's gonna be a roof handle there and that it's not flat. But this area should be pretty simple because it is flat. So you're just gonna wanna look for the ridges and put a little bit more glue in those areas because it definitely wants to hold there rather than having like a gap. Just wanna take a quick second to tell you guys about my partner for this video, Mint Mobile. You can join the nation's largest 5G mobile network for as little as 15 bucks a month. Switching is a lot easier than most people think because the entire thing is done online, meaning you can complete the process from start to finish in about 15 minutes. They do this by the use of a digital SIM card called eSIM, but if for whatever reason your phone is not compatible with eSIM, they'll send you a physical SIM card free of charge. Each plan comes with unlimited talk, text, lightning fast 5G, and free mobile hotspot. And say you want to do the switch but you don't want to do it alone, they have modern family plans available with as little as 2 lines. If you're interested in reliable coverage and fast data for a fraction of the cost, go to trymintmobile.com/Dito to get started. Or you can scan this QR code right here. I want to give a big shout out to Mint, and now back to the video. It just says to shake it well before use. And this stuff kind of shoots like those Spider-Man web shooters, so, you know, it's kind of fun actually. You're not going to see much of the coverage on the headliner itself, just being that they're very similar colors, but you will see a good bit on the back of the fabric. All you're going for is just good even coverage, so it helps to go both vertical and horizontal on the headliner. Again, putting emphasis on the ridges because those areas are going to need a little bit more support, being that, you know, you kind of have to squeeze it in there. Spraying both pieces with the headliner adhesive is going to help give you the best possible bond, especially for something that lays upside down relative to how you're working on it, because there is vinyl out there that has a Alcantara finish, but being that you're only getting adhesion on one side with that, probably better kept using that for smaller parts, smoother parts, or even plastic parts. Once the adhesive's gotten relatively tacky, you can go ahead and pull the fabric and stretch it over the headliner. Now, the basic concept you're going for here is just trying to get everything smooth to the contours of the headliner, focusing the wrinkles on the outside, because the wrinkles, if they're on the outside, you can just fold them over, you're not really gonna notice them, but you want everything to be nice and smooth so that it's very fitted to the headliner. So we're starting by the center flat section and just working everything out, directing our attention then to the little roof handle section, because that is a pretty aggressive drop off in terms of the curvature. All you really got to do is make sure that you're laying it progressively rather than trying to fit it over and then stretch it down, because if you're doing it progressively, you'll get a little bit more fitted into the contour. A pretty simple way to visualize it is the new fabric is going to want to lay flat, whereas the headliner is not entirely flat. So rather than having it be where it's laying flat and you're trying to stretch it out to fit into these crevices, much easier to lay it progressively into those crevices. Now, being that we are laying fabric on top of fabric, if you lift it up a few times, it's possible for the edges of the factory fabric to want to come up a little bit. A pretty simple fix though, you have the headliner adhesive, just spray it underneath and you'll be good to go. And we're doing this job where we're going to be taking care of that issue so it doesn't come up in the future, because we're going to be wrapping around the edges rather than cutting at the edges like the factory did. Now, once you've got the bottom half of the headliner done, you can move on to the top. Now, if you don't have a sunroof, it's just rinse and repeat. If you do, you're basically just going to go about it with a little square that you're not putting as much glue in. But whatever setup you have, definitely ensure you're putting glue on the fold of the new fabric, because I find it's pretty easy to forget this area. For the rest of the headliner, the goal is just nice even coverage with the glue. But for the fabric, you can obviously leave a square out where the sunroof is. The sunroof section we're going to treat like an edge, and the edges we're going to be doing last, being that I like to do the edges with the headliner flipped the other way, so we want everything to cure properly first. I'm doing this job by myself, so definitely don't feel like you need an extra set of hands to knock it out. It does help in that you could have someone hold the fabric as you begin pressing it down, but it's really just in how you feel comfortable going about it. One thing I did test as well was the initial 10-minute suggestion for the adhesive to get tacky. It does get progressively tacky regardless of if it's placed in position or not, so definitely feel free to start going in a few minutes early if you'd like a more forgiving job in massaging the fabric into position. So you can see the center section is looking pretty good. Where it's not looking the best are some of the outside edges, but that's because we're pushing all the wrinkles to the outside, being that we're working from the inside out. Now, it's actually very easy to fix. This is going to be fixed by flipping the fabric and pulling it to the other side. So you can see right here, you got these wrinkles. If you flatten them out, similar to that, you'll get to that point. I'm only doing this with one hand, but you can see just doing that, it'll flatten it out pretty easily. So we just need to do that to all the other edges and make sure this thing is all complete. And this looks kind of funny, but if you do have a sunroof or a roof console, there are areas you can kind of cheat it, and you can see that it's not very pretty here, but that's specifically because we're just going to cut this out. So as long as we got these edges, as we do here, minus, I mean, these pieces that we're going to be fixing here in a sec, these are areas you can definitely emphasize some of the wrinkles and some of the areas which is not looking the best. This is the general approach we're going to have for all the edges. You're going to get a few cuts in so you can create some tabs to pull on and have less of a large area of operation. Being that we're pushing the wrinkles to the edges, you're going to spray some glue and start spreading the wrinkles, pressing them down to flatten them. Followed by securing the edge onto the other side of the headliner, And I prefer this as opposed to cutting at the edges, just because cutting at the edges means you can pull on it or have it get caught relatively easily in the reinstall process. Securing it to the back means that just putting the headliner in position is going to secure the edges even more. The glue takes about an hour to dry, so we're going to go ahead and give it that time before we flip it over, because the next step is to address all the excess fabric. We're basically just going to fold it over, cut it to size, and glue it down. And unfortunately, we did get a little bit of overspray on the headliner, but not the biggest deal. Main thing is we're going to let it dry, because if you try to pick at it while it's wet, you're probably going to spread it, but if you pick at it when it's dry, it should be isolated.
A few moments later.
And as for the little specks of glue that I accidentally sprayed on, they've dried, but they haven't cured to anything because they were just like loosely sprayed on, so you can actually just rub them off. So don't worry if you guys get glue on this thing, it comes off pretty simply. Now for the sunroof area, there's two ways to really go about it. I'm sure there's a ton more, but there's two that I think are the most direct. So one is to create an X and basically just have the triangles and fold over. We did those for these little areas, like for the visor connection points, and it's very simple. You basically just cut the X, spray some glue so it gets both areas, and then whenever it's getting ready to dry, you just fold it over. You can apply that to here as well. If you have the cut, like specifically right here, you do want to be very careful to not cut it too short, otherwise you'll see the tan seeping through. The other way is to basically create triangles here in these corners and basically have this entire area, like the length of it, be just straight. I think with that, you have a much easier job of just laying this out because it's straight. You don't have any angles to worry about. It's really just going to be up to you. We're going to go for the triangles, straight line, triangle, straight line, basically that route. To start off, we're just going to make a hole and cut out a rectangle here in the center of the sunroof section. We really don't need all this fabric, so this is just to get us started a little bit easier. So here you can see a little bit of a cleaner example of the cuts. So obviously the longer sections are just going to be flat, because those are the easy just fold over. We do have the little triangles here in the corner. Now the main thing you want to be mindful of is this center cut right here, because one, in just kind of pulling these, it is going to tear a little bit, so you definitely want to cut with some space. But what you're going for is just having it be that whenever you're pressing this up, as you can see, that cut is higher than this little ridge, mainly so that you're not seeing it from the inside of the vehicle, and from there you can just fold everything over. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be folding over the flat sections first, just to give this a little bit of pull of going the other way, and then we'll take care of the corner. I'm starting off by sizing up the tab and seeing how much I can cut off, being that our main goal is really just to wrap around the edge. What I usually do is tuck some of the excess underneath the frame just to give it a cleaner look, but that is entirely up to you. When you're ready to start pressing the fabric into position, you don't want to just pull it. It's better to massage it into position to ensure you're making contact throughout the entire section, as well as mitigating any wrinkles here. You can see just with these tabs being folded over, the tension is pulling the corner up, which is ideal in helping everything be pressed into position. For the corner, I'm using my entire hand and just pressing it against the curve, working my way up to the ridge. This is where the tackiness does help out, as there is some tension wanting to work it back down. Also remember, the tabs are there to help you out, so definitely feel free to pull on those if the area ends up giving you a harder time. And flipping it over, this is what it's looking like. We just got to do the exact same thing 3 more times. And there is the sunroof section cut out. And just like that, we've got our nice suede headliner done. The suede is really nice and feels great. And here we have the headliner installed and looking awesome. It feels amazing, very nice and luxurious. Feels very much like a factory option without really being a factory option for the year. But you can see it looks much more put together when everything is actually assembled. We have the visors, the roof console, the roof handles. Still got some buttoning up to do, but it's going pretty smoothly. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you in the next one.